You're listening to the Out of the Box podcast with Timmy, Halisa, and Sinosure.
Okay, yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining in this episode. This is a special episode. Decided to bring this one to Twitter. This is a special episode of the Out of the Box podcast where we discuss socio-political issues happening, in Nigeria and across the African continent. So it's been 100 days, almost 100 days, of our new our new president in office, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we decided to bring, the space to Twitter today to have this conversation and just get inputs, from the community. We're always hearing ourselves talk, and I think when we even started this podcast a few months ago, it was about when Tinubu was sworn in, or when he was about to be sworn in. But we did our first episode was basically about Tinubu's government reviewing the manifesto and talking about things that we should look forward to or should expect. So now that we've experienced 100 days under the Tinubu administration, we're going to be having this community episode where everybody gets to chip in their opinions for a couple of minutes. It's only going to be a 1 hour space because the podcast is hosted regularly on the back end, and it only goes on for 1 hour. So if you like to contribute, you can also request for the mic. I can see a few of our friendlies here. So if you'd like to contribute, please make sure you request for the mic to join in the space. So we're going to be starting right away, and in 1 hour we will be done. Okay, Halisa, how you doing?
Hello, welcome. I would not miss my chance to do the intro again. So welcome to Out of the Box podcast. And we're your humble host. And today we are about to talk about, we want to talk about what's going on in Nigeria, basically just evaluating what has happened in the new administration since we're clocking 100 days. And thought it would be nice to hear from every other person, not just us. And we do this normally. So it's something we normally do. It's not a new event, but I think that a new audience should, hear all these brilliant minds. So it's nice for us to do this. So, come up and speak. Let's talk about this. What is the scorecard? In fact, go ahead, place a score, if you have to do that, percentage, over 10, whatever you want to do, feel free to do that on this episode today. Pick up the mic and let's hear you speak. So thank you, Dorothy, and nice for us to have this here. So we can go over the speakers and we can take it back up. But basically, if we want to give an introduction, our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was sworn in. And I think it's been a lot that has happened. It's been policies and then policies withdrawn back. It's been a lot going on, not just in our region, but in the whole of West Africa, in Africa in general, especially sub-Saharan Africa. And it's a thing that has caused, a lot of people to, attach it to this current, I wanted to say regime administration. I didn't know what to choose, but administration. Let's just go with administration for the sake of podcast. But then, so let's just hear other people. You always hear us. So let's start with Idiakosa. Idiakosa, thank you for joining us today. Let's hear you. What do you have to say about 100 days of Bola Ahmed Tinubu being in office? Let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, Alisa, how you doing? Do it to me, Afana. Hi. Yes. So straight to the point, I will give him an F9. An F9. It has been for me what he has done so far has been very, very poor. We see a lot of incompetency because he will roll out an idea or a policy, and then days later he will back out. So we just see that there's not really concrete plan of action. There's no real comprehensive plan, on how to take Nigerians out of poverty. So it's more of just guessing work, and just hoping something will stick. More of false hope or wish casting. So for me, is F9, and I don't think that is going to change, because it's the same recycled feed policy from the past government of Buhari, and there's nothing innovative or creative or unique that have not been tried that is currently doing. So so I don't know where we'll go from here, but I see a lot of people, I don't know, on timeline, some people, even some obedient, has been, preaching the message of revolution. I'm not sure how strong that is. I'm not sure how that sentiment is. And today I was in a space that a comrade was hosting, and there was a lot of massive protest. Let's go back on the streets. But I know it was more of the judiciary. But we see there's some kind of sentiment that, what, things are not working in this country, and we need some drastic change or drastic measure for us to move in the right direction. I will eat for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Idiakosa. That was a very wonderful contribution. One thing that I must say though, and this is just a general comment about this last election, is that there's been actually a different dynamic to this particular election and this particular administration. Post the handover to Tinubu, right? Because of, again, we cannot deny the inputs of younger people this time around, most especially with the technology that is out there, and most especially with Twitter Spaces. Sometimes we get tired of it. Sometimes I do get tired of it, but the fact that people have endless, continuous conversation about what's going on in government, it has actually introduced a new dynamic to politics in Nigeria, and the people in the diaspora, for the first time, can in real time, contribute to what is going on in Nigeria, contribute their takes. People in Nigeria can also in real time, talk about what's going on in Nigeria. People all across Africa in real time can talk about what's going on in their various countries, and it's not filtered. It's not. It doesn't have to run through any editor or or any publisher to say, okay, this is what you're going to put in, or this is what you're going to, this is what you're. So regardless of who is publishing the news, the news, the stories, whether it's pro government, or regardless of who is speaking, whether the person is for the government or or against the government, we have this real time kind of effect, and it kind of makes this administration a little bit more. I don't want to say interesting, but it kind of adds a little bit more pressure, into the whole the much needed pressure, into the whole dynamics of politicking and governance, but really. I just want to contribute before we'll hand over to Nick and any other person that may want to speak. If we're going to be talking about Tinubu's 100 days in office, I think of some of the most important things that people would have. The first thing that everybody always looks out for when any new president is sworn in are the ministers. Who are the ministers that are chosen to serve in the cabinet of this administration? Are they the same, old people, or are they the much needed or the much what's the word to even use? The technocrats. People always say, put technocrats, or are they young people, right? Because one thing that we must say is, there have been a little bit of input of young people in Tinubu's administration. I must say that, that there's been a little bit of input. Now, we can now debate as to if those young people mean anything different or not, but we must also say that. So I would like us to speak, bordering around the ministers that have been, sworn in. is there any, the topic of this podcast was meant to be 100 days with bats, renewed hope, how far, but I think due to the space, the title of this Twitter space, we're not able to put that in, right? So I think I'll hand it over to Nick, because we just want to hear from like the community today. With the ministers that have been selected, what do you think is there any renewed hope to you with the kind of ministers that have been chosen to serve on the cabinet of Tinubu? Nick, are you there? Go ahead, please.
Yes, hello everyone. Good day and good morning. First of all, I have a question to the host. Why haven't I been on this show? Out the box, this is typically me. Why haven't I been on this show? This is kind of, I'm upset because I should be an honored guest on the podcast. I had no idea. So this is pretty much, I'm upset. So I don't know, something has to be done. But anyway, in good faith. So 100 days. I think to talk about 100 days, um, the Nigerian situation is quite unique in a way that is disturbingly unique. Is that to actually be able to measure 100 days, someone has to have a coherent, comprehensive plan. They present it on the day they elected office, or have a policy agenda. Like, again, I feel like there's a confusion about a policy plan. A policy plan isn't just a project you're gonna accomplish. The policy plan actually tells me how you will tackle actually the fundamental problems of Nigeria, and how, because again, this is what usually this is a policy work. It's not just optics. It's like, because researchers, reporters, people will be measuring this quarter by quarter to see how you're achieving. This is how we measure whether a country is going up. Because again, in 100 days, what you're looking to see the direction upwards. What are they? Are they doing things that would actually deal with actual problems of Nigeria? Okay, we talk about what are actual problems of Nigeria. To me, there's one. Nigeria is going at a massive rate. I think only Pakistan is going as big as Nigeria. Nigeria is growing at 2.5 annually. That's a lot of people. And the problem is that it's regressing, it's growing poor. So anyone has to come in, and many of the things why it's growing poor, one, critical infrastructure is abysmal for a country this huge with 223 million people. Very critical infrastructure are abysmally missing. Two, and with that means that when you don't have critical infrastructure, you cannot have people investing. Government has to invest in every single thing, right? That's what that means. You don't have private sector. And the reason why investors are shying away is because the regulatory environment is shaky, and this is polite. Because the rule of law is not even, there's not even a resemblance of it. Institutions are not independent. To say they're not independent are just polite. They're also non-existent. So when administration comes in, what the plan is, you have to tell me exactly how you are going to tackle the fundamental problems of the country, not just optical problems about reduce. Because when we talk about insecurity, there's things that are driving it. When we talk about economic regression, that's things that are driving it. And when you drill down on those things, the fundamental problem have been what? Lack of institutions, rule of law is in sacrosanct. Institutions is overlapping of jurisdictions. The CBN is involved in project development. Every department is. You have two ministries that are doing exactly the same thing. You have army doing the job of the police. So there's it's like we call it a dogs. There's a lot of things that doesn't make sense policy wise. So when you elect someone, you want to see them actually want to tackle the actual problem of the country, not just give me low hanging fruit. So anyone who knows this, when I started coming on Nigerian Spaces, I keep asking the same questions. What are the plans of the country? Have you actually understood? Because anyone that wants to govern Nigeria on any level has to understand the core problems of the country. If you do not understand it, then you cannot govern. I can't even ask you for it, because if you do not understand the fundamental issues of a country and how to tackle them, then I'm not sure I could actually grade you on governance, because I'm not sure how to grade you. It's like if you do not understand the subject, how are you going to write the test, and how am I going to grade you? So this is the problem I'm having. So it's kind of difficult to ask about 100 days when someone hasn't actually provided that they are ready. I haven't actually created a situation where I can ask for 100 days. To the question that you asked, ministers, I could have to go on a limb that I don't know all the ministers. I know a few of them, and I've heard about a few of them. I'm still trying to research to see where all these ministers came from. Usually when I'm looking is not just obviously people that occupy these positions are important, but I also want to see what in the portfolio of what specific things what are the deliverables of that particular ministries. In many experiences that I've been part of, a premier, a head of a government, a head of an institution will say, this is in this portfolio we're going to focus on infrastructure, and this is pile up project one. In this Ministry of Interior, we're going to focus on police reform. We need to make sure that we could be able to provide people an accurate count of things that are happening out of the country, security wise, and our resources dedicated to apply them, and how to measure those and how they are working or not. So that's usually what I look for. Not just, and when you present that, you're able to offer me, then I could be able to match, say, okay, regarding this deliverable, I think this person is matched to do this, and this person is not matched to do this. So I'm not really sure I could be able to. I don't think I could even measure 100 days because I haven't seen anything policy. All I've seen, I think people are confusing directives as policy, which these things are pretty much directive. And I've seen that you're not renewing you're not renewing subsidy is a directive. But again, how do you deal with the unknowns and unknowns of the directives? For me, that's the policy. So in this case, I haven't really seen anything coherent. Let me put it that way. I haven't seen any coherence, and this is obviously typical of the governors of Nigeria. I haven't seen anything coherent. So I would just say I can't. Obviously, it's a fail, but it just can't be measured. I don't know. I just don't know what the government is doing. Let's just put in layman's terms. I just don't know if there's. I don't know what they're doing. I don't see any resemblance of any policy. That's just it. Thank you. Sorry, I took too much time.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Perfect contribution, Nikkei. Thank you very much. And trust me, you're on the list of guests that we had planned to bring, over to the podcast, and that will be done soon on some other topics. I think Halisa, you want to put in something at this point, or do we go ahead?
Yes. I just wanted to chip in that I'm also not exactly excited for the ministerial list because I think that the person or the two people that I think a lot of people had some kind of high expectation from is Bosun Tijani, the guy in charge of digital economy, and I think there's this other lady in charge of some culture. What's her name? She did this NTA skit kind of video very recently, trying to tell us what they plan for us. So I think those are the two people that stood out. But I know the one that actually made rounds was the person that was in charge of youth. And a lot of people.
That's the minister. Is that the minister of arts,
Yeah,
culture, tourism you're talking about?
Yes, that one. And I also heard some people saying that yes, the way they plan to help people that are living below the poverty line is that they have Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And I'm just looking at all of these ministries. I'm like, wow, this is really so vague. What does Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, look like, or what are they supposed to do, to remove people out of poverty? So, all of these things are just we have Ministry of Youth and Sports. So those ones are together, and they put a guy there that was 60 years old before they said they removed him, something around that nature. So yes, a lot of things have happened. A lot has happened. They wanted to give out palliatives instead of subsidy, and I think that a lot of people have made a lot of their concerns known to the government, and the government kind of decided to roll that policy back. And then now they are saying that they're going to give states 5 billion naira. Some states said they've gotten 2 billion. Some other states say they've not gotten anything. And we've seen some videos coming from some states that have received that money and they're giving palliatives, and it looks like it's a scene from a war zone or something of that nature. So that's one of the other policy. And ECOWAS I don't know if this is a rebirth of ECOWAS, but we are seeing a lot of things around diplomacy too. But let's keep the conversation going. You can pick up any of these conversations and like just tell us what you think about them. Let's have a new speaker, I think, right? Dorothy, me before we go back to, you know,
Yeah. Before we go back to Nick, but before we even have a new speaker, again, I'm just trying to direct the conversation around Tinubu, because this is not about basically about what we feel, but about what he's like. Like Nick has said, any judgment of this man has to be from their own plan, right? I don't think we would be able to judge him according to. That's something I've also heard one of the presidential candidates say a lot, even though he's not, so much of my favorite person right now. But during the campaign, I was not happy that we had some other I was happy that we had some other, maybe like another, I don't want to say an alternative, but just someone else, because if you're the only alternative in the race, then it seems like, oh, you're, a lot of people accuse you of, wanting it all to yourself. So I was kind of like happy. But then, let me just try. I'm looking at, 8 focal points released by President Tinubu's team, his media center, and it says
before you go to that
President
8 focal
Tinubu's.
point, Dorothy,
Oh,
he
okay,
said
yeah.
he's going to hit the ground running. I guess he did that. So why did Jacosa give it a F9? I guess we're at A1 here. The ground was heated running. I mean, the race was run.
Yeah, so it's the 8 focal point. It says access to capital, which I know that during the campaign that was something that he talked about. Ending poverty, not so much. Improving security, rule of law, level playing field for individuals and organizations, fighting corruption, economic growth and job creation, food security. So I'm just going to, for me, before we hand over the mic to Sadan, these are 3 things that were talked about. I know that if you followed, because I did follow Tinubu's campaign. I was, I listened because I always like to listen, right? Read manifestos and all of those things so that we're not just criticizing blindly. And I know that access to capital was talked about. He actually said that, from his own mouth, not just from a document. He talked about also having a credit-based system. Talked about food security a lot, whether it was talked about food security a lot, and also talked about economic growth and job creation. Me recruits 50 million youths into the army. Anyways, but this was talked about, so uh let me leave it there. But I just wanted to just put that out there so that maybe when Nick is speaking or Sadan is speaking, we have a little bit of a little bit of context, to talk about. But for me, before we go ahead, I just, there's a reason why I circled this access to capital, food security, and economic growth, fighting corruption. I think that's a big joke. The individual himself, I don't think is capable of fighting corruption because he is the one that needs to be fought. Level playing field for individuals and organizations. I think that if that was to be done, he would have done that, when he was a governor. Rule of law. I want us to remember that we have 2 individuals that have been arrested, Bawa and what's his name? The other guy, Emefiele, the CBN governor. And rule of law is not currently being followed. It's not currently being followed. So that's a 0 already. Improving security, we'll talk about that, and then ending poverty, which there's been a lot of debate about. As to how to go about it. But let's go to Sadan. Nikki, we're going to come back to you after Sadan, but let's just give Sadan a chance to speak. Sadan, so what would you say, how you rate the first 100 days in office of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Yeah, good evening, boss to me, Lisa, good evening, my brother Idiakosa, Nick A, Mr. Williams, Light, Mr. Samuel, Mr. Ignima, Mr. Joshua, Ignatius, good evening, every single one of you. First of all, I really want to say this. I think that question is kind of, sometimes when the teacher or a lecturer sets a question and the question is kind of confusing, you take the question paper and tell the teacher, the lecturer that you made a mistake on this particular question. And I think my brother Idakosa fell for the question while he gave Tinubu F9. Tinubu did not participate in any exam. Talk more of giving him a grade of even having an F9. Tinubu did not even enter the class for an exam. Because what I have to say concerning you talked about the 8-point agenda currently, and there is no place where power is as of necessity to this present government. That is why they are so cool in removing the fuel subsidy and nothing has been done about it. Knowing fully well that the economy 100% runs on power, and they are not telling you there's anything they are going to do about it. That is to show you the government of the day that we are trying to look into in the next coming 3 years and about 8 months. So what I'm trying to say in all share right now is that the Tinubu government, since swearing in on the 29th of May this year, has been, in fact, it has thrown a lot of people into poverty. We have a statistics of about 133 million people in poverty, or in multi-dimension poverty before this present administration. There is no stats right now, but I can comfortably tell you authoritatively that we have over 150 million Nigerians in multi-dimension poverty as it speaks right now. I don't need stars to come to tell me this is how it is, because young entrepreneurs are already shutting down businesses. Those who are working earlier are already losing their jobs because their employers can no longer pay them salaries. We are talking about Nigerians right now. There's no longer any form of middle class. Either you're rich or you're poor. There's nobody hanging there any longer. In fact, if you can eat 3 square meal comfortably right now in this country, you are fucking rich. That is to show you how the masses are suffering within the 100 days of this Tinubu administration. Now, you talk about the rule of law. Like you rightly cited, we have Bauer, we have the CBN governor, who has been in detection for months right now, and yet there's a government that is coming to tell me that they respect the rule of law. There's no rule of law coming anywhere close in this present administration. Have the presidency issued any form of statement concerning the demolition of houses in Lagos State? No, they have not issued any form of statement. Has the presidency issued any form of quick statement concerning the destruction of motorcycles in Abuja? No. Now, you want me to rate this government? This government did not enter into any class. Talk more of me passing them. They did not attend to take the examination. You crush over 500 motorcycles, if not up to 1,000 motorcycles. Now, where do you expect those people to get a means of livelihood from? How do you expect those people to feed their families? The only thing the government of the day is trying to do, or which they are doing already, is to increase our crime rates. Is to increase crime rates. People who cannot watch their children starve will go out to steal. People who cannot steal, looking out for their spouse and their children, will find every alternative to provide for them, even if it means involving in crime. And that is the government of today. 100 days of Tinubu administration. Welcome to the month of September, and happy new month to each and every one of you. Schools will be resuming, both primary, secondary, and universities. They're going to be resuming anytime soon. Some will be resuming tomorrow. And we already have an inflation in the hike of price of school fees already. All thanks to the federal government of Nigeria. These are people who went to school almost free of charge, paying or without even paying anything at all. But they are coming to tell Nigerians, you can take a loan to go to school. Now, federal universities cut across the country, state universities cut across the country, each and every one has increased their academic section fees. Why? Because the fee you can go and take the loan if you cannot afford to pay what they have on ground. Even as a landlord, by law, I cannot raise my rent. Probably I want to give an increment of rent. I cannot raise my rent above 20%. In some states, 10%. But I wonder how the federal government of Nigeria can increase school fees with over 300% and nobody is talking anything about it. Nobody is saying anything about it. Now, the government of the day don't even care how our citizens are really faring. There's hunger in the land. I read this morning where Twitter user in the name of Mr. DC tweeted that waking up this morning, the news about a lady throwing his child or a child or maybe a daughter or son into the river, all because she cannot feed herself, talk more of feeding the child. Some people might call it depression, mental health, or whatsoever. But that is the system for you. That's to show you how it is leaving the Buhari administration down to the Tinubu administration. What do I really expect? Am I shocked about all of this? No. Like you rightly pointed, Bostimi, you talked about his campaign policies. And he said something during his campaign. He wants to build on the existing foundation that Buhari has laid. The both of us know, the House today knows that the Buhari administration was only able to build the foundation of corruption, was only able to build the foundation of hunger, insecurity. And yet somebody is saying, I'm going to continue from that foundation. So I'm not surprised. If there's more hardship on the ground, it's because the foundation Buhari laid ended up at a DVC level. And the Tinubu administration is roofing the house already. So you don't expect the amount of suffering to be the same. It has tripled already. Somebody who took a foundation of a building down to the roofing level, what do you expect? So the 100 days of Tinubu administration, to me, has been nothing short of living in hell. We are living in a mini hell in Nigeria. So I don't think that if any Nigerian should die due to the bad leadership we are having, God is still going to punish us more by taking us down to hellfire. I don't think so, because we are already living in hell in this country. So what do you want me to talk more about this present administration? They want to fight corruption. It's very impossible for a government that came into power through corruption, through so much malpractices, through rigging, and you are telling me you want to come to fight corruption. I think that is very impossible. Most of you have talked about the ministerial list. What is there to talk about? Recycling of looters, recycling of corrupt leaders who have held one position or the other in the past. These are the same people who could not even give a world standard hospitals in their states. They cannot even brag of a good functioning government schools in their states. And these are the people who are being made ministers. I'm even surprised Kayemo is Minister for Aviation. What is he going to do there? What are these people going to do there? But all we know is that the ministerial list that was released were based on grant of compensations. Based on grant of compensations. Wike is there. He did the dirty work in Rivers State, got his people killed during the election, gave APC the mandate, and he has been compensated. So that is not a ministerial list, that is a compensational list, a list of favoritism, a list that doesn't care about who is really fit to take in such positions. I will tell you for a fact that we have hardworking Nigerians in the civil servants who are more than qualified for these offices. But what do I know? A governor finished from his tenure and is going to be taking arrears every three years from the states, goes to the Senate, and they're also fighting for a lifetime pension. And right now, the person is also a minister, receiving pension salaries from different offices. And these are the same people who wants to come to fight corruption. You are sharing 500 billion for 12 million Nigerians, but you can share 70 billion for 469 House of Rep and Senate members, and yet you want to fight corruption. So what I'm trying to say is that the 100 days of Tinubu will be worst, or the legacy of Tinubu, even after the 100 days, will be worse than what we experienced in Buhari's regime for 8 years. Because like I always tell you, Boss Timmy, we are living in a country of retrogression, whereby we always praise the previous administration. I've seen people already tweeting, saying it seems that as if Buhari government is better, oh. Jonathan government is better, oh. Why? Because we always get it wrong when it comes to electing a leader at the apex seat to control things, to control the affair of this nation. So all I have to say right now is for every one of us to fasten our seatbelt, because we still have 3 years, 9 months, and some days to go before we can think of coming together again to form a coalition for 2027. Those who have ear, let them hear. I'm off to Mayumash. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Sudan. That was a great contribution. But that 3 years, 10 months, don't let some people hear you. Don't let some people hear you. If they hear you, they will come for you. It stinks. So, but thank you very much for that passionate contribution. And then you did touch a whole lot of stuff that has happened in the past 3 months, or yeah, about 3 months plus now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you
Let's go
remember
back to
that is
Nick.
this last
Okay,
3 months
yeah,
that
go ahead.
they proposed to increase the salary, by 107%. So yeah, they said we should tighten our seatbelts. I really like that line you used, because someone really dear to me said that while they say we should tighten our seatbelts, they are loosening their own belts. But yeah, let's cycle back to Nick. Nick, you wanted to say something, Nick A. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think the gentleman before just said what I was trying to say, that, how can you grade someone when they didn't even take the exam? So, yeah, I think that's pretty much what it's implying. How do you measure someone that didn't even have anything to offer? You don't, there's no measurement. Again, it's just pretty much, and I think it's pretty frightening, because I wish, and that's was a good question. I wish all the people that on the space 2 years ago that were saying, please don't question this guy. This guy has built Lagos with his bare hands. Please, you do not question him. I wish those people would be here actually and actually defend. And we said that I don't know, Rotimi, if you invite people, yeah, they probably, smartly decided not to come. To defend that, because I know you remember this, that when we were asking, people were laughing at us and getting there's no insult to me personally that I haven't gotten, me, and I've benefited little from any administration. There's nothing that I did. So many simple question: what is actually his plan? What is he trying to do to address urgent policy reforms in the country, institutional reform? What is the actual agenda? What does that mean? Are people insulted? Said, "Oh my God, how do you question someone that built entire Lagos?" Well, I want you to invite the same people to come and defend the record and tell me what the 100 days has produced for someone that obviously built this city with his bare hands, from what I was told. So I want them to come here and defend that. So that's pretty much my take. Well, I want to hear from them, all those people that when stood in line and voted, because this is a guy, remember, this is people that fought, beat up people, caused violence to get a job. Now that cannot do. Just tells you a pattern in this country that's quite disturbing. Because as the guy pointed out, this is the beginning. This is the first 100 days you are here. Imagine what a year will be like. if you were to if you were going to trace that trajectory. So I think I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't think you can measure anything. As the gentleman pointed out, there's no grade. You can't grade something that isn't even gradable. I digress.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nick, for that contribution again. I think you can't grade something that's not gradable, but we have a lot of people like on social media that are saying, "Oh, this guy has done an absolute great job. He's doing well. He's doing this. He's doing that."
It's
But
not,
one
but
thing
those
that has
people
been of great,
saying it is not
yeah,
based
yeah.
on data or any kind of parameters. If you want to look at what has happened in the past 100 days, we see that in the inflation rate have actually increased. I think it was 22% at the end of February. Now it has increased about 2%. So right now, currently it has 24%. So the inflation rate have increased, and also price of goods and commodities have also increased. So those people say, how, I really don't understand. Maybe they are living in an alternative reality, because based on what is on ground, you know is
But what about the unemployment rate,
unemployment.
though? It reduced
God, I
drastically.
beg, not make me laugh. No, no. Oh God,
Oh, that laugh is actually wicked. That's actually
no,
wicked.
of course,
But
it did not
what
reduce.
can we?
Of course,
Yeah, go ahead.
they just revise it, based on the new method or a new technique. But the real unemployment rate, we know what it is. But I guess they were trying to, make things look good, or trying to paint a good picture. So yeah, continue.
Okay, so what can we say? What can we say has been positive in the last 100 days? Is there anything that we can cite and say, okay, yes, this is actually positive? Is there anything? Because I've not heard anything from either Nick, Yakusa, Halisa, Sedan that came and contributed. And for those people who are joining us, I think you can do well to request. We have just a few more minutes to be here, so you can do well to request. Speak your mind. It's a free platform. What do you think? How will you rate the first 100 days of Tinubu? And I think this is a world a globally accepted time frame for reviewing any given government. So some people, when we started talking about this some weeks ago, putting all eyes on I think some of us have been putting all eyes on the executive, right? So people have been saying, "Oh, you guys give them time, give them time, give them time." They just came into power, so I think this is a globally accepted time frame for reviewing any government anywhere in the world. 100 days, there will always be a review, and you will always get ratings after 100 days. I think Halisa wanted to contribute something. So, but the question was, what is positive? What can we say that these people have done, that's positive in the last 100 days? And then I have another question for Nick. But Halisa, go ahead.
Personally, I don't think that anything has been positive, because for me, I try to simplify a lot of things so that we don't go on this tangent of trying to prove to ourselves that we understand economics, because I've heard a lot of things, and many people just try to showcase their education, which is fine and great, but I think many people forget that economic is like a social science. You need to apply that to a context, you need to apply that to a country, right? So people have been trying to, play these mind games. Regardless of that, why I think that not a lot of things has been positive is because for me, it's just like, okay, has this cost this? It's pretty much yes or no. It's like, have this improved people's lives? No. You know, Diakosa just mentioned inflation rates. Now people are buying tomatoes, yam. I know we don't like to, sometimes we don't want to talk about these little things. Bread, a lot more expensive than they used to buy before. And, little by little, like people cut down on vegetables, people begin to cut down on things like this. And these things affect people. Like people start feeding their children less, less balanced meals. And I think that a lot of things have just happened. Many people have not been able to go to work because of fuel subsidy removal. People, instead of going to work like 5 days a week, they are now going to work like 2 days a week. And Nigeria, this remote working is not something we've really incorporated into businesses and all of that, because electricity, because of computer, should I say, literacy and all of that. People need to go to the office, and some people have to go to the office before they can even get some kind of money. So people have really been stranded, and it seems like money is not supposed to move in the economy, because people, it's just logic, right? People go out, spend money, the economy keeps moving. And now when people are going to work like only twice a week, that's a problem. People were doing that for like 2 months. Some people are still doing that right now. So it's a big problem. Like a lot of policies have not just brought good results. So for me, is this policy, what did it bring out, positive or negative? If it's negative, net negative, and we are here. But I've heard a lot of people trying to put positivity to it when they try to say things like he has made a lot of decisions that many people have not been able to make, since 1999, kind of trying to allude to the facts, in quotes, that he's a powerful leader, in the sense that nobody wanted to remove this fuel subsidy, but he removed it. Wow, such a powerful leader. It's interesting the way our minds, the psyche of some people. Some people said that, yeah, we're suffering now, but in 5 years' time, we'll not suffer anymore. Like we haven't been suffering for 60 years or for a very long time. So that's just that. I've heard a lot, anyways. I've heard a lot recently that.
But you've not suffered the way that you should suffer. Like
I mean,
you've not suffered the actual suffering. The suffering you've been suffering before has just been like, now you need to suffer. So when you suffer very well now, you will now get that enjoyment. And one thing I wanted to add again was like, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the way he has actually managed this subsidy removal. It's a policy. It's a directive, like Nick has said. Remove fuel subsidy. But a lot of people in Nigeria, especially the youths, I think a lot of people were actually sold the idea that fuel subsidy removal is good, and a lot of people, to be honest, if you ask them, they support it. But the thing is, a lot of people have argued that the way he managed it was actually wrong, and I think that you know obviously it's a choice, it's democracy, right? These people say their plans and their ideas before the election, and he actually said he was going to remove this is not something that he did out of the blue, and he did, right? But the way that a lot of people have alleged, even though I don't feel like there's any way that you can remove it that people will not suffer, but a lot of people have alleged that the way that he removed it and the way he's managing it is absolutely terrible. And I think I would agree to that fact, and that's one of the things that shows that there was poor planning, and because there's a way that it could have been managed better if at all you wanted to remove, although people were still going to suffer regardless, but and suffer
How can
heavily,
you
right?
manage
Yeah,
corruption? How can you manage corruption?
that's the
We
problem.
need to start facing the facts. How do you manage corruption? I've been trying to understand. When they say, people say buy buses, I'm asking, are they not going to buy to eat the money up in that other area? I mean, I think people need to start telling me, because maybe I may be slow on that. But how do you manage that corruption? Because now it just looks like you're diverting that corruption to another industry. So let's see how that will work out for us, since we have saved subsidy money for 3 months, right? That's a win, right? Oh wow, we're looking for a positive. It's a positive thing. We didn't pay subsidy for 3 months, right? So maybe even though we're borrowing to pay for subsidy, and NNPC said they haven't received anything for a long time, but a lot of people have claimed that that's a positive from the administration. So let's see how that works.
And I was going to even ask Nick before, but I think he's no longer with us. Like, how do we implement a system where we have ratings, where politicians know their ratings? Like, you're the governor of Lagos State, you're the governor of Cross River State, and you know that what if you bring out if you initiate an idea or policy or whatsoever, the in most advanced countries in the world, you see your ratings, you know what the people are feeling about you at that particular point. I don't really know how it's done, but I think that I was gonna ask Nick how we can do that, and like with most of the policies that they brought out and they had to take back or adjust, not really adjust, because even the student loan that was introduced, there was a lot of bashing, and then they had to, it had to go away, and so many other things, that they've done, testing the waters and then pulling them back, so
Yeah,
that's something that we might talk about at a later time. Yeah, the question, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Like you said, your question about how do we do ratings to know, how well these politicians are doing. I would say I'll give an example. In the United States, they usually conduct polls like data. They do it. It depends. Like different news media we go out and do a survey on how the American people are feeling, right? And hold on.
And you know what's funny? They did that also in Nigeria. They did one, and they put that 62% of Nigerians, at least am I correct with that figure? They put about 62% of Nigerians are happy, are excited with Tinubu's administration. So, obviously, I know that it's from polls and all of those things, but how do we have authentic? How do we have authentic? And when I mean authentic, I'm also saying something that is not also absolutely tilted towards people who are
But that's
like
No,
that's even based
anti-government.
on the
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, go
yeah.
on.
that's on the premise of, if this person is performing not correctly, you can do something. Let's imagine that somebody is getting minus 5 on that ranking. Do you think they'll care? We all sat down in this country.
Well,
We all sat down in this country. Everybody, members of the PDP, the LP, the is it SDP, NNPP, they are all together sitting there, and all of these laws are being made. So even though I'm beginning to see that, or to think that it's like they are not even accountable to us, that it will look that say we have some ranking system that's putting them on like minus 50, they'll be worried. They are not worried.
yeah,
They
but
are not
they,
worried
they won't be
about,
worried.
will they?
They won't be worried, but it will be clear. It will be well documented in history that at this particular time, you know why it's good. You know why it's good. It is good because it's just like how today now people are saying, oh, when we had PDP, it was the best time in our lives. You hear a lot of people come into spaces and say, and not just spaces, everywhere, TV, oh, I was able to take my family on a vacation when PDP was there. I was able to travel around the world and all of those funny things that they say, that it was much better during the time of, but even though it was much, yes, the things are worse now, but it wasn't like it was we're dancing on the streets, we're happy, rule of law was being followed, like we had that kind of government that we've always been yearning for during the PDP time or whatsoever. You have a lot of funny things, like it's also very important, like you remember the time of when Buhari was about to run for office in 2014, 2015. A lot of our parents started saying, oh, this man, when he was there, things were so, Nigerians, I always say this, that we have about 2 MB memory. So despite the fact that we might not, the politicians might not react to those ratings, it will just be well documented that, hey, you were a flop at this particular point, at this particular month, when this policy was introduced. A lot of Nigerians were not happy with it. Imagine someone going out there now to write that Nigerians are happy with full subsidy removal, like what they did, in terms of like the poll that they actually conducted. All right, just a few weeks ago, where they said 62% of Nigerians are happy with Tinubu's administration,
Who
and that is
conducted that pool
documented.
though? From where? From whose organization? Like,
We don't even know, but it has to be a
mhm.
pro Tinubu
Yeah,
report.
as I was saying, it, like when they conduct polls, it doesn't come from and yes, sometimes we have like pro Biden that will conduct their own poll, but there are a lot of independent organizations that do a survey or conduct polls, right? A lot of them, and they do that every day, monthly or whatnot. So they do it every day, and also there's like every monthly, there's a poll that comes out that says, okay, is America moving in the wrong track or right track? That is being documented for years. So if you want to know how the American people are feeling, you could just use that survey to tell. And currently, you see majority, about 60 to something percent of Americans are still saying that the country is moving in the wrong direction. So, but that poll is independent, is well documented. It doesn't come from pro-government poll, so you can actually use that to gauge the pulse of the American people. I'm not sure if something like that is would be, I mean, conducted in Nigeria. I'm not sure.
That I mean, that's a good point. I think I've also like seen some like very independent polls. Santi Science is one. I think to a degree it's good, and I think people Sinosha would even stand for like the NBS this thing data too. So that those ones are just general economic like pointers, not really about the politicians or the government or administration itself. Because I think a lot of people are trying to make these things subjective. Like some people will say, oh, 50,000 naira is okay here, it's not okay there. We get it. You can use economic what's it called, modeling to make sure those to like explain those things. But there's a lot of subjectivity to standard of living that I've been seeing recently. People will tell you, no, people are okay. Yes, they don't. Some people will be fine with blah 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 amount of money. And I think that to a certain level, we should allow room for objectivity. If you cannot feed 3 times a day comfortably, that's a problem. If you cannot go for a medical checkup a year, that should be a problem. It's not that your blood is not strong. I mean, your immune system. There's just so much subjectivity in the matter of how Nigerians live that I think that Nigerians are trying to just like, well, what can we do about it? But I wanted to say this. I wanted to ask this before we round up. I know we're talking about the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, 100 days. But let's not forget that the governors also, we've had a change in a lot of areas too. In governors, we've had change.
Oh, now you sound like our APC
Exactly.
brothers.
That's
Focus
what
on
I
your
wanted
governor.
to say
Okay,
was
let's
that,
let's talk about our governor.
yeah, no, not let's talk about our governors. I'm trying to say that, what's it called? Are we is there any room for us to talk about them or how they are influencing his administration? Are they making his administration so hard to run? Or because that's the argument people are giving, that the governors are not doing what they are supposed to do, so the president cannot do anything because he's just a law-abiding citizen. He cannot armstrong them into doing whatever he wants them to do.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Wike did an interview of recent where he actually spilled. I think if I was a PR person for them, I wouldn't have put out that information. But this Tinubu people, to be honest, they are in charge. They are in charge of the narratives that are out there, and also they are very smart. They know what they're doing. Like when I mean smart, I mean smart to their agenda, right? He actually put out some information. I think it was in Channels TV or one of his TV stations where he said that the president had written to all of the state governors, and I also have privileged information that he also reached out to all of the presidential candidates. So this guy, Tim is a very smart person. He's not fighting with anybody. As far as you are available to be bought, the offer will be laid out to you, right? So He has reached out to a lot of people, presidential candidates, elected governors, state governors, like what you're asking about right now, and asked them to provide their preferred people for political appointments and everything. Like you saw, the video is out there. Wiki actually, said that. So I don't expect them. Like I'm answering the question in one on the like in one direction now as to them speaking out, or if anything is not going well between them and the federal government. Let's forget about that for the next 3 years, 9 months, except something goes wrong, except they have disputes. When politicians have disputes amongst themselves, they will now start bringing it to the people and begging, like Dino Melai, begging Nigerians to speak up for them and everything. But when they are eating together, they don't call Nigerians to come and join in. Now, then, for the other aspect of your question, as to the performance of those governors, yes, I think we'll be doing ourselves a huge disfavor not to also talk about 100 days in office. All of these governors that have been sworn in, into office, their first 100 days in office, how far with them? What is actually going on? And I think that would be is a fair suggestion, and it's a very good question that you've just raised. We need to also look at them, or everyone that has been elected. Now, not only those governors, even our lawmakers, we're going to look at them and 100 days in office. So I think it's about to be, all of you that are busy people right now, Halisa, I think you guys need to clear up one whole week so that we'll go over it one after the other. First day, 100 days in office, Tinubu, 100 days in office, our state governors, 100 days in office, lawmakers. And I want to tackle my friends in the LP, all of their lawmakers that have been elected, 100 days. What's up? What's happening? Are they still learning? Are they still reading the rule book? So we need to tackle all of those things. And I think we should not miss out on that information. It's not enough for everyone to just, cast all of the cast all of the work on the president alone.
That's
So
where I'll
I
have
think,
to also come in here, like what's it called? I know that many people will say things like the it's not how do I put this? When I ask that question, my intention is not to say let's hold them accountable per se, because I'm like, how do we do that? My question is also leading to a point of, okay, these people are not performing very well. As the president, what do you do? Do you just sit down? Because at the end of the day, you cannot say I've sent 5 billion to all of these states. They are not doing anything. There's no report on that. I have ministries that are supposed to be able to check these things out. Ministries are supposed to be under the executive arm of government, right? So what should I do? Because since I've already like sent the money, then that's it. Since they've already paid salary, then that's it. Am I not supposed to look at this system? Because there are many things that you cannot tell me that because you're a president and you've already like pushed out, you've done the admin job, you've done the accounting job, you've already sent money to some people. You just sit down there, whatever happens. If people like, they should fall below poverty continuously and you do nothing. You know what I mean? I think that the president should also like take responsibility for some people not performing too. At the end of the day, you cannot say you are the number one citizen. I don't even know how people started saying that. What does it mean to be a number one citizen? But you can't tell me you are the president of Nigeria having the responsibility to actually, be in charge of many things, and you just sit back and wait since you've already disbursed some money to people, even though people work on it or not. It's like a CEO of a company. He will have a okay, all of the team members under you, they are not doing very well. Like, okay, not your team is falling. Oh, no problem. Let's all sit down. That does not work, right? The CEO is going to change the managers. It's going to change something that's going to change the whole foundation of the company, rebrand or do something to help it work. So just wanted to chip that in. But Dorothy, just take it over from
Yes,
here. Let's try to run
I
it.
agree with you. Yes, Alisa, I agree with you. You know, it, it is not just enough to just for the president to just sit down, or for a supposed to say, you know what, we have done what we need to do. Now go and meet your local and state local and government. Yes, I agree. We should also hold our local and state government to account, our lawmakers. Yes, I believe in that. I just feel like when APC try to push that narrative, that doing it with ill intent, that doing it to evade or absorb responsibilities from the president. If the president feel like some governor are not doing well or are not spending the money that was disbursed to them, then the president should call attention to that. He can do a press conference. He can speak. So just being silent and complicit, it means that you are also part of the problem, and we will call you out and also call the other state and governors. So I think that let's not fall for their narrative, because yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if they want us to be able to hold our governors more accountable, local government chairman, I think two things are very important. Number one, there must be transparency. If you're giving any sort of funding, federal funding to the state governors, we need to know. It needs to be very transparent. If you're any collaboration between you and the state governors, any communication between you and them needs to be very transparent. Because if we don't, it's only what you know about that you can talk, that you can talk about. Because we've had several instances in this country where even after an administration is over, when new people have been elected, Nigerians will now be privileged, to new information via investigative reports, from platforms, that do these things, right? So there needs to be transparency. They have a lot of work to do on transparency. You cannot look at the case where there was what they call this money that was given to Wiki and the rest of this oil producing states, right? The federal government did not say anything about it. It was just given. It wasn't publicized the way it should have been publicized. If it had been publicized at the time, it took Wiki revealing that for people to know that people that they had gotten those funds. So if it had been publicized, then Nigerians would have been enabled to be able to hold those governors accountable. Then we also have to look at the rule of law. We have two instances, right? Not even two. I think about two to four instances in the past 1 to 2 weeks where people have tried to hold people in lesser levels of government accountable, and they have been beaten up, arrested, and maligned. We have a very popular case now in the case of Ogun State, where even a councillor, that's someone that is also an elected public office public office holder, or some people said he was appointed by the governor himself. But regardless, he holds a public office in this country, and he tried to hold someone who the governor of the state accountable. And what happened? He's currently, as at the time of recording this podcast, under DSS in DSS custody, arrested, thrown in prison. So we need to. It's not enough to just say people go and hold your local government. How exactly? And that is what people like Nick A, who spoke earlier, and Halisa have always been asking. What is the modus operandi of holding these guys accountable? Is it the same way that what do you mean when you say holding them accountable? Are the police going to be used to hunt people, knowing that even the local government is even closer to home? You go and you make so much trouble in your local government, before you know, they are sending talks to you to come and beat you up, or they can even assassinate you. I mean, so we need to make sure that there's the rule of law is being followed. You can't just pick people up, because if I make an allegation that a state governor stole this money, it's a civil case. You don't go picking people up, beating them, if possible, even killing them. We have the case of also Abajalingo, a journalist from Cross River, who runs the media platform, who has reported several times about maladministration of public funds and everything. And what happens to him every time that he puts out a report? He gets arrested. And I think, Halisa, one of these days, maybe if it's on the podcast, on a Twitter space, we really need to talk about this problem where people get arrested in one state and are taken to another state. Trust me, you don't know how bad it is until it happens to you. Someone will get arrested in Anambra State and will get taken to Abuja. I mean, that is absolutely terrible. considering the fact that they may have never lived there before, they may not have family members, and even getting justice in a place you're familiar with, it's hectic. Talk less of you being moved to another state, and this is what we always see. So when you say people they should hold their government accountable, we need to make sure that there's enough security, for them to do that at the lower levels of governance. So those are just the basics. But in one maybe on another platform, we're going to talk about this and at length, to actually go into it. But definitely, yes, that's a great suggestion. And we're going to hold the governors and the lawmakers and every other person that's been elected first 100 days in office is going to be a review of all that too. Of course, I think you wanted to put in something before we close.
Another thing is that holding our local government or state accountable. Another thing is, how did they get there? How was the process? Because if the process was dubious or fraudulent, I'm not sure how you can hold them to account when they know they are not accountable to the voters. If the voters are not actually electing them, how can those same voters hold them to account? It will not work, because they know in the next election they'll just do what they have been doing, ring it and get elected. So that idea, holding your government local accountable, we have to look at it deeply. We have to look at the process. Is that process fair? Is it free? And is it transparent? Because if it is not, then we'll just be wasting our time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Idiakwis. That was a great one too. I think that's a great point. So finally we've come to the end of this episode. I think we're even over time. It was just meant to be for 1 hour. But we'll always do this maybe once a month, where we'll bring the community of the podcast. The podcast is up live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere that you can find a podcast normally, YouTube, we're everywhere. But once a month we'll bring it open, to the community, people who listen to the podcast, and just, get input from them, and have a wonderful discussion. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Please follow this account, Out of the Box, and we will follow you back. And it's an open community for everyone. It's a community for out of the box thinkers to discuss social political issues in the country. And we are also on other social media platforms. You can follow us, and we'll do well to follow you back. But don't forget to check this episode out on Spotify and other episodes on Spotify and other platforms too. So thank you very much. Alisa, you want to say anything before we round up?
Yes, turn on notifications so that and download the episodes. All right, thanks for joining us today. I will see you next time.
You're listening to the Out of the Box podcast with Timmy, Halisa, and Sinashore.